Hello everybody, here's a new video from Rene from Spain. And in this video, I'm going to show heavy metal vinyl that I love, but released between the year 2000 and 2009. I already made a video where we're showing cool vinyl released between 1990 and 1999. But this one is from 2000 and 2009. And I'm going to show from each year, I'm going to show one great heavy metal records. No thrash metal, no death metal, no black metal, no glam metal either, no hard rock. It's just pure heavy metal. Okay, let's start with the year 2000. And the year 2000, Primal Fear released their third album, Nuclear Fire. Great artwork. I mean, Primal Fear most of the times have great artwork. I really like the artwork of this band. Of course, they look very, very cool. This is of course, from the year 2000. And check the song Iron Fist in a Velvet Glove. That's maybe my favorite song of this album. Also around the same time, this 7-inch single came out. It came out actually a year later. Out in the Fields, of course, the Gary Moore song. Just now, Gary Moore died like 10 years ago. Also, we have Breaker on here by Accept and Kill the King by Rainbow. This is a nice single that came on orange vinyl. Okay, the next one, it's 2001. There's the second full-length album by Metal Lucifer from Japan. Very strongly influenced by the British bands from the early 80s. Also, they have just US metal influences too. European influences like from Pokelgap, Ocean, Stormwitch. They have all influences from all type of heavy metal bands. This is just a great, great band, Metal Lucifer. See, back then they had this guy, actually these two guys were in Metal Inquisitor. And this is the guy that also is nowadays, he was in Sodom for a while, but of course in Disaster. He's also in Disaster, for he was in the band. I don't know, I'm not sure if he's still in the band nowadays. But this is a great release from 2001. This came out on Iron Pegasus Records. As a nice inlay. And also, Iron Pegasus Records released a single, a maxi single, Warriors Ride on the Chariots. And of course, that is on here, the third song on the A side. But this came out also in 2001 with Heavy Metal Revolution and Dracula on the B sides. Also on Iron Pegasus Records. Okay. In 2002, an amazing album came out. The second, I think it was the second full length. Yeah, the second full length of the band Majesty from Germany. Sword and Sorcery. I love this album very much. I mean, you got songs like Heavy Metal, Fields of War, Metal to the Metalheads. Great song too. I mean, this band, they released so many great records. They were sounding very much like Manowar back then. They were like the German Manowar, they were calling them. And I think this was their second full-length album. And this came out in the year 2002. The first album was Keep It True. That was the first album. I think it came out in 2000, I think. Also, they released a 7-inch single back then. But they're still going strong nowadays, Majesty. Only they changed the sound a little bit. They don't sound as Manowar as they did back then. Okay, the next band is actually kind of a compilation from early stuff, but it came out in the year 2003. I still want to show this. It's Exiled. And this came out on Halion Records from Germany. This is just great US power heavy metal. Just a great release. This came out on red vinyl. Here we have the early stuff. The best songs from the early stuff is on here. Just great stuff. Great songs. This is yes, the songs 1 and 8 were recorded in 2002, and the songs 9 and 12 in 2003. This LP is a real limited edition of 500 copies, only for collectors. Okay, dus it's a cool album. Okay, the next one is the Hungarian band called Rotor. See, the artwork is not so nice, to be honest. But this is a good album, and it gets better after each play. You know, I also have the debut album by this band. I think it came out in 89 or 1990. But this was, I don't know, I remember exactly. But this is a Rotor with Semi Nem Elek. For sure, I'm butchering it. Okay, the next one is the third album by the band October 31. I always talk about this band because I love October 31. Of course, with King Foley from Deceased and Doomstone. You know, he's in this band. And this was the third full-length album. And this is from 2005. A lot of great songs on here. Powerhouse, No Survivors, Wrecking Crew is actually an Overkill cover song. And it's just great. King Foley's on here. I mean, he does the vocals. And the drummer is done by Dave Scarface Castillo. You know, in the early days, he was also drumming and singing at the same time. You know, the Victim of the Future era. You know, that those... okay, the next one is 2006. This came out, the vinyl came out in 2009, but the album is from 2006. And we are talking about Ruffians, with their second full-length album. They did one in the 80s. Of course, they had Cole Albert in the band. He was from Vicious, later he was with Vicious Rumors. And this is just a cool album. US metal. Check the song Live by the Sword. That's a very good song. And another song is Freedom. Yeah, the last song from the B-side. Great cover art too. Ruffians. Okay, from 2006. But on vinyl it came out in 2009. But we are still in 2006. And now we go to 2007. Tales of Medusa. Epic US metal. This is the Triumphant Serenade debut full-length album. If you like Eternal Champion or Omen and stuff like that, you will like Tales of Medusa too. This is a great band that released some demos, some singles, always very limited, you know, 50 copies maybe, sometimes 20 copies. This is 100 copies. I have number 32. This was sent by the band to me, you know, back when this came out. And this is from 2007. Nice labels too. Okay, in 2008 we had the debut album by the band In Solitude from Sweden. They were quite strongly influenced by Merciful Fate. They remind me quite a lot by like Portrait. But later they changed the style. You know, they made a record I didn't really like later on. But this was their first full-length album. And the name of the album is just In Solitude. Just like the band. I don't think they're active anymore nowadays. But this was a cool band back then. Together with Portrait. Wolf was also very active back then too. But Wolf are still active nowadays too. But there were a lot of great bands from Sweden. Now still nowadays too, but in 2008 there were a lot of cool bands. And in 2009 I'm going to show a heavy metal compilation that's very important, you know, for the new wave of traditional heavy metal that was booming back in 2009, 2010, you know, like back then with MySpace. And here we have songs by Powerwise that later changed the name into Wanderbust, if I'm not mistaken. White Wizard is on here. Cauldron, Ram. I mean, they were already a little before the explosion of the new wave of traditional heavy metal, but they're on here too. Enforcer with the song Mistress of Hell. Portrait are on here. Voltax, I think they're from Mexico. In Solitude, the album I just showed. And Cast Iron, that only released an EP back then, but a very cool EP. This is a must-have. Maybe you can still buy it nowadays, but this came out in 2009 already. But to understand, you know, the new wave of new wave of traditional heavy metal movement, you know, the early days of that movement, this is a very cool compilation that came out on Earache Records. Okay, everybody, check some of these records out if you don't have them. They're all great. They were released between 2000 and 2009. And I will make another video showing from 2010 till 2019. But that will be done in the future. Okay, stay metal, everybody.